recovery after storms. I think you deserve to have a better operation and how that's handled when we have storms in the future. Leadership, I think, is very important. I've been your governor. I've been Florida's Attorney General. I've been Florida's Commissioner of Education. I've been in the state Senate. I've served in the United States Congress. I'm ready to lead because I've done it before. And I think that, we have over 400 cities in the state of Florida. And if I can run the state of Florida, I ought to be able to run the government here in St. Petersburg in conjunction with the city council. So I look forward to our evening together. I want to thank those that put this night together for us here at Childs Park. I'm looking forward to the questions that we may have. And I want to thank you and encourage you to get out and vote. Tomorrow is the last day of early voting. Obviously, Tuesday is Election Day itself. Please go vote. I'm Charlie Crist, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, candidates. So at this time, we're going to get right.
I want to wish a happy birthday to the mayor. It's kind of special when we have a forum and one of us has a birthday. So happy birthday, Mayor, from all of us.
Happy birthday. Maybe after. Okay, so we're going to get straight into the questions. That way we hopefully will have some time afterwards to get questions from you guys, all right? So we're going to get right into it. We ask that everybody answer the question, respect each person here, and take this opportunity to let the community know what your opinion is on this question.
1 minute question, 1 minute answer.
Got it? All right.
That's quick.
1 minute?
So
I talk slow.
first question, housing affordability. With housing being a quality of life issue, particularly in St. Petersburg South Side, what proposals would you advance to improve housing affordability? And which community groups would you work with to ensure these proposals meet residents' needs? And we're going to start with who went last. Chris, go right ahead.
Thank you so much. Well, affordability of housing is an incredibly important issue. It's talked about a lot, and not enough is done about it a lot. And it seems to me that if you're going to address affordable housing in St. Petersburg, you got to build housing that's affordable. It's kind of common sense, right? And some of the things that have been built lately in order to be called affordable housing are $800,000 a unit. I couldn't afford that. I doubt that anybody in this room could afford that. And I think it's important that we have to keep our feet on the ground and understand what affordability should be, and that it should be such that people can afford to buy the units that are put up for sale. And if you don't do that, you're not addressing affordable housing, and it needs to be addressed for all of us. It's important for our community. It makes us stronger. It gives you a good place to live, and I believe that we can do it. So I would like the opportunity as your mayor to make sure affordable housing actually occurs. And if you elect me, I guarantee you it will. Thank you, sir.
Next candidate.
So affordable housing is an issue that I've worked on for many years, and I have really set the pace for innovation for the city of St. Petersburg, really taking state legislation and being able to bring that down to build more units that are truly within affordability. The Fairfield apartments, which aren't too far away from here, right next to Gibbs High School. Those are being built. Those are for 80% AMI and under, and that is happening because of legislation that I passed. Housing is a complicated problem. It is not a one-size-fits-all. We have to have somebody who is creative. Other programs that we need to make sure that we are actually bolstering are things like that will actually keep people in their homes. Rebates for rehab, that is another program where we can use more CRA dollars to make sure that people who are currently in their homes can stay in their homes. I wish that it was possible to solve this in a 1-minute answer, but it just simply is not. You need somebody who can take these really complicated issues, break them down, and make real policy to change them.
Thank you very much. Next candidate.
So I have a background in real estate. That's my business. For the last 27 years, I've had a real estate company here in St. Pete. The way to affordable housing is supply and demand. It's that simple. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. The more supply we have, the lower the demand will be, the lower the prices will be on that supply. So I can explain it in detail again afterward, but another issue that we're having is the rising cost of utility bills and taxes. That's got to stop. Say no to rising utility bills. It's ridiculous. Say yes to Amendment 3 in November, which will lower the cost of housing. Very important.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Because we have 1 minute, I'll make it simple. We cannot address the affordability issue for housing unless we address more income that is coming into people's pocketbooks. We cannot control the market. What we can control is, and which you will find in my 100-day and in my strategic plan for the city, is ensuring that we have a strategy that puts more money into the hands of residents, and also is a strong, that we also develop opportunities to support, our small businesses.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Yeah. So a whole lot for a minute, but let me say this. We are producing affordable housing. I urge you to look at our website and look at the housing that we put on there. For example, Skyway Lofts down on 34th Street South. Apartments as low as $350 a month. It's based on your income, no more than 30% of your income. So we've got more than 1,000 units that we preserve. Folks are not being moved out because we are preserving the units. Jordan Park has more than $3 million of CRA money in it. The Legacy Apartments, Founders Point, Skytown, which is the new development where Ceridian used to be. A quarter of that is affordable. So if you go in and look at what we've actually done with the CRA dollars, preserved or built more than 1,000, 2,500 are on the way, including Fairfield, which does have CRA funding in it as well. So we are producing truly affordable housing in the city of St. Pete right now.
Thank you. Now we'll be moving to our next question. This question is Tropicana Field / gas plant redevelopment. What permanent measurable benefits will the Tropicana Field / gas plant redevelopment deliver to Charles Park, Wildwood, Melrose, the Deuces, and all surrounding communities beyond temporary construction jobs? And we'll start with Mayor Welch.
So I renamed this effort to Historic Gas Plant when I came into office. It was called Tropicana Field Redevelopment because the focus was on baseball. I knew, having grown up here, that those weren't the promises when an entire community was uprooted. The promises were what I call the J-HOP principles: jobs, housing, economic opportunity, and honoring the promises. That's why the churches gave up their land. That's why folks gave up their businesses. That's why folks gave up their residency. So that is exactly what we're going to receive if I'm reelected and move forward with the agreement that we have with the Berg bid. 3,600 units of affordable housing. Now, some up here don't believe there should be affordable housing on that land, but I know affordable housing was there, and that was the promise, that was that you could come back to that land. Housing, not just construction jobs, but career paths, like we've already done with the Mayor's Future Ready Academy, get folks trained up for careers. Take a look at the proposal that's online and see all the benefits that are in that proposal from the Berg bid. It is about jobs. It is about economic opportunity.
Sorry.
It's about a 41% minority business target as well.
Thank you. Next candidate.
When I'm elected mayor, one of the things that we would have to do is start the planning process over for the historic gas plant in Tropicana Field. The reason being is because of the way that this process took place, you actually have the developer who is going to make the decision on how those promises are given out to the people. We will not have an opportunity, because this is what happened the first 30 years. We did not have a strategic plan that spelled out clearly what the performance measurements were going to be for the people who are the descendants of the gas plant. And how you start out is how you end up. And we will start with a strategic plan.
Thank you. Next candidate.
I have a different view. The property's value is much, much higher than what the administration is touting right now. We need to bring jobs to that site, not low-cost housing. If there's housing, it needs to accommodate the site because it's one of the most valuable sites in the state of Florida right now. The city of St. Petersburg can leverage that site to fix all of the infrastructure that we need to have done over the next 20 years. And we won't need a $600 million loan, which is going to be on the ballot in November. So we need to bring jobs in. We need to create a system to where we can train people for those high-paying jobs. That's what we need to do.
Thank you.
So the question was specific to community benefit. And so I want to be clear that I am the city council member who has led the charge for this administration to stop the selection of a developer until we have a community planning exercise. We are going through that as city council right now. And so that plan would bring the community to the table to set the vision for what we want to see collectively, because we are the owners of that land. I also want to be clear that we have a community benefits agreement and ordinance, and I was one of the city councils to push for that and make sure that this administration did not water that down ahead of the selection of a developer at this time. Holding us accountable to make sure that those promises are delivered, but also to make sure that that return on investment that will come from the development goes back into our community. I have been in favor of sunsetting the in-town CRA and making sure that as that development happens and those tax dollars increase, that we can put those dollars back into our community.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you very much. Obviously, this is an incredibly important topic, and it's incredibly important to this community. And there's a reason for it. There was some mistreatment when the highway came into St. Petersburg and really separated St. Petersburg. So what I think we need to do is, number one, whatever the plan is that is ultimately the way we're going to go forward on this 86 acres right next to downtown St. Pete, which is incredibly valuable, is that we have to make sure that it addresses that descendant issue and that we honor it and make sure that we have the appropriate museum that needs to be there to reflect that. I think it's important as well. I don't have a bias toward any of the plans that have been proposed already. The mayor has already selected one, and I respect that. But if we elect somebody else mayor, we can have fresh eyes on this. And I think that's a healthy thing to have happen. You know, the plans, different things that are attractive about them, and my time is up.
Thank you. Thank you. Next question. Living wages, jobs, and community benefits. What will you do to secure permanent living wage jobs, local contracting opportunities, community revenue, and foreseeable benefits for major public development projects? We'll start with candidate Chris.
Well, you know, we just talked about the gas plant site. The gas plant site, once the plan is determined and set, will provide an incredible amount of employment opportunities to all of St. Petersburg, and particularly those people nearby, like they're here, to have an opportunity to have a living wage that makes St. Pete more affordable for those who are working on that project. And that's going to last for 20 or 30 years. I mean, this is not a short-term thing that's going to be done in, 2 years. It's going to go on for a long time, and it can be generationally beneficial to the community that we're concerned about, which is right where we are. And so I think that's important to remember, and I'll have my eye on the ball when we get there if I have the honor of serving as your next mayor.
Thank you. Next candidate.
So I believe that any agreements that are signed regarding the historic gas plant, or quite frankly, any city-owned land project, should have local people at the heart of not only the jobs based around construction, but the jobs on the other side of whatever that development comes, whether it's office space or other types of jobs. But at the same time, the city needs to be partnering with our education institutions to make sure that our talent pool is supported, to make sure that people are ready for the jobs that we are creating. We have a unique opportunity to be able to do that around the historic gas plant, but it also can exist within other city-owned land projects, and that is why I created the city-owned land policy, which is an administrative policy that focuses on the best use for our city-owned land as a valuable resource. And that is the kind of integrity that I think should go with every single project that the city participates in.
Thank you, candidate. Next.
I don't need a lot of studies to know what we need to do. I don't want to bring in living wage jobs. I want to bring in high-paying jobs. And I want to train our residents for those jobs. I want to start with kids in the 6th grade for my Youth Opportunity Council. When they're in 8th grade or 9th grade, 15 to 20, I want to give them an apprenticeship opportunity where they're being paid to learn trades or other types of jobs. This is the future for these people. Anybody in St. Pete can participate in this program. And by the time they graduate from the program, they'll be offered a full-time, high-paying job in the trades. That's going to be our workforce for the future. And Charlie's right, it's going to take 20 years to build this thing out. So there's a lot of time to have jobs and train our residents, our youth, to earn the high-paying jobs that these will provide.
Thank you. Next candidate. You have 1 minute.
One of the things that I had to come to grips with when I was given a calling that I was going to run for mayor in St. Petersburg was to address the reality that St. Petersburg was in an affordability crisis. And that when you address a crisis, you have to be able to get to the root cause. And the root cause is people have to make more money. The livable wages is something that I have already talked about on the campaign trail, to talk about how we bring the major stakeholders. It's a process of bringing major stakeholders to the table and getting them to come to consensus on what can we pay, what we agree to pay people so that they can afford to live in this city. We can't keep talking about housing and insurance and utility rates until we address the tough subject is putting more money in the hands of people.
Thank you.
So I agree with Maria. You have to do all those things. And we focus on a triad of jobs, transportation, and housing. You have to have all three of those. Real quickly, on the previous agreement that I signed with Hines and the Rays 24 months ago, remember we had Here to Stay celebrations. Workforce and career development was embedded in those agreements, in 12 agreements. It will be embedded in the agreement with the Berg did as well. We're talking about career paths, training, not just a construction job. I've always looked at our workers. I've been endorsed by SEIU, our blue and white collar workers, police and fire, because I've always fought for a living wage, a general wage increase for them. And one of the first things I did when I was elected was to raise all of our city workers, including our part-time workers, to a living wage in my first year. Support apprenticeship programs, and one of the things I've heard from young people, and some of them were right here when we had conversations with the community, is we don't see a way to get to the opportunities you have. And so we created the Mayor's Future Ready Workforce. Young people get to rotate in our departments, and we've hired 30 of them full-time with the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go to the next question. Next question is environmental public safety. Public safety involves more than crime. What would you do to protect residents from factories, data centers, or other industrial operations that are located near residential neighborhoods and create a possible health or quality of life risk? And you go first.
So data centers is a hot topic. We are looking at that right now. We had a council mayors meeting A couple of weeks ago, I talked with the county commission, Chair Dave Eggers, to see if there's going to be countywide work on that. Again, we want to understand the impact on water, electric uses, all those things that we're concerned about before any data centers go forward in the city of St. Pete or Pinellas County. If that takes a temporary moratorium, I would support that until we've got all the facts on the table. Beyond that, resiliency needs to be something that everyone can take part of. It's not just a coastal neighborhood issue anymore. And so with our Sunrise St. Pete, we are connecting folks with funding for financial assistance and for rebuilding and becoming more resilient. $160 million we've received, one of only 2 cities in the state to receive that money. We want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be resilient in the city of St. Pete.
Thank you.
I said during my introduction that I was a public administrator versus a politician. A public administrator meaning that I know how to implement processes in the public sector to get results. When we talk about environmental public safety, let's just use Charles Park for an example. We have been kicking the can down the road for 30 years, looks like, about this odor in Charles Park. We have not gotten a solution, folks. The reason that we have not gotten a solution is because the mayors of this city, who should be the CEOs, are not taking these serious issues that impact the people and then taking the lead to ensure that there are results that are given, and that at the end of the day, the people are able to say, oh, that issue has been resolved. The issue of environmental public safety is a huge one, and it's going to take a mayor who's going to be out in front on that issue.
Thank you. I'm sorry. We want to make sure that there's some opportunities for you to talk to the residents. I think at this point in everyone's election, I think that's the purpose of having this today. So if we can get through these questions, we can open up to here, and hopefully everybody's happy with that. Next candidate.
Okay. Yeah, so data centers, I think we should put a pause on that probably for at least 3 years to study it more. But this is an interesting topic. We have a property in West St. Pete, we generally call the Raytheon property. Are you familiar with it? There's a toxic plume under the property, yet the administration recommended approval and city council approved building apartments on top of the toxic plume with a caveat in the lease saying, hey, there's a toxic plume. Now, who the hell is going to read that? Would you want to live there? Would you want your kids living there? That shouldn't be happening.
Well, let's talk a little closer to home. The Halco property right here in our backyard of this facility. I agree with Maria that we should have been holding them accountable, and that is the role of the mayor. And unfortunately, this administration and administrations before have failed in holding them accountable. I've continued to work with your neighborhood association here in Childs Park and John Muhammad to work on ways that we can try to get that property under control and quite frankly, potentially shut it down. It has worked without a permit for a very long time, and the county should be holding them accountable, and our mayor should be the one going to the county and making sure that they're holding them accountable because it's here in our neighborhoods. And so that is an environmental justice issue. It is one of many that we have to tackle. I am the environmental candidate that is running for mayor endorsed by the Sierra Club, and will continue to work on these issues regardless of where I end up in this mayor's race.
The issue of data centers has become a very hot topic of late. I announced this morning via social media that what I would do if I have the honor of serving as your next mayor, I would immediately enact a 1-year moratorium on any new data centers coming to the city limits of St. Petersburg to make sure that we understand exactly what's happening, how it's affecting water. You know, they have to have a lot of water in order to keep them cooler because they heat up quite a bit. Well, we already have a water issue. We all know that. And our water bills are too high, and sometimes the bills are even close to being right. There was a story not long ago in local media about a 92-year-old lady that got a $12,000 water bill. in a house that she didn't even live in. Nobody lived there. For that to happen is ridiculous. We can do better. That's why I'm running.
Thank you. So at this point, we're going to ask a question that is titled Service Beyond the Elected Seat. Beyond voting and signing legislation, what will you personally commit to doing, connecting to the residents and the community organizations with funding or other resources? Did you understand the question? No. All right. So essentially, we're asking, beyond voting and signing legislation, what will you personally commit to in your own time? And an example is to do, commit to doing, to connecting to residents, for example, community organizations, helping out with funding, agencies or other resources that you can help to uplift your city. And we'll start with Charlie. Yes.
Well, I've always believed in leading by example. Obviously, the mayor is the leader of the city. As governor, I was the leader of the state of Florida. And I tried to always comport myself with transparency and decency and mutual respect. I have a small boat. It's a 25-foot open fisherman center console boat. The name of the boat is the Golden Rule, which means do unto others as you would have done unto you. And I try to follow that rule every day. And I would commit to continuing to do that if I'm elected your mayor, to be an example to everybody. And fortunately, a lot of people in St. Pete comport themselves that way. A lot of nice people in this city, and we're blessed for that. And so I don't think it would take a whole lot to steer it even stronger that way. But a good leader who treats you well can do that. And I will do that. I commit to it, as well as being around civic associations on a regular basis, not having people have to come to City Hall.
Thank you.
Well, from the time I was elected almost 9 years ago, 10 years ago, my motto has been let's work together. And that's not because it's filled with empty platitudes or promises that I'll make on a campaign trail and not keep whenever I'm elected, but because that's how I believe that the real work happens. We have to put people at the center of every single policy that we pass within City Hall. And we have to do that by working with coalitions of neighborhoods, business organizations, everyday people to make sure that we're making an impact. The Resilient St.Pete Action Plan is a priority that I led to build resiliency into our city across neighborhoods. And we came right here and brought Childs Park and Kingston Street to the table to make sure that as resiliency planning was happening in our city, we were getting the boots on the ground information from everyday residents as to what they were seeing with flooding in their homes. That is one example of how we build coalitions to make sure that we're prioritizing every project and every policy for your business.
Thank you. Next candidate.
So aside from being a successful businessman, I was president of Shore Acres Civic Association during Hurricanes Idalia, Debbie, Helene, and Milton. And we recovered. I went to work for the neighborhood that I live in, work in, and took that information from Idalia and applied it to Helene throughout the city. I was helping people in Childs Park, Lake McGorry, everywhere, along the beaches. I can do that anywhere. But what I'm gonna do, if I'm not elected mayor, okay, I'm going to create this Youth Opportunity Council outside of the city if I need to. So talk to me about that afterward, get more details.
Thank you. Next candidate.
On September 14th, I will be 69 years old. And since I was 13 years old, my mother had told me that I did not have a choice about serving my community. My guess, if by some chance I am not elected mayor, that I will continue to do what I've always done in St. Petersburg. That's been the development of Child's Park, where the Child's Park Junior Rattlers was funded based on the long hours that I put in with the residents of Child's Park. I will continue to keep building institutions like Happy Workers that is not closed because of the work that I did on my spare time after leaving work. I will continue to build programs that support Black women who are dying disproportionately of breast cancer and support opportunities for them. I won't do anything differently if I'm not elected mayor. It won't matter if a mayor won't elect me or appoint me to a council. I'll continue to serve in spite of.
Thank you. Next candidate.
So I think it's important that you delineate. Some folks up here are not new to Child's Park. They've been here working with the community for years. And I'm one of those people. One of our city hall on tours where we bring the entire city government to a neighborhood was right here at Child's Park. One of the community conversations when young people were sitting in a circle telling us where the guns are coming from happened right here. And that drove our policy decision to create Forward Together, $1 million program with wraparound services so that when kids get in trouble, they don't stay on that path. One of the things that I'm bringing to the table that we'll vote on in November is the general obligation bond to bring our infrastructure where it needs to be. It's been ignored for decades. It cannot handle 7 feet of storm surge or 18 inches of rain like we're seeing now, which is a product of sea level rise and extreme weather. So those are the things that we've done. You don't have to come to City Hall. We bring City Hall to you. I also meet with every neighborhood on a quarterly basis.
Thank you.
We do have transparent government.
So at this point, we are going to open the floor for questions. Before I pick someone, I wanted to know, do you want to say something? You tried to talk last forum and you couldn't. Do you have a question? All right, well, you come on up here. I'll meet you halfway. And then after that, we can, we'll get as many questions as we can. We're going to keep the same format. You guys have 60 seconds to respond, all right? So
You are back.
thank you.
I'd like to hear the candidates' thoughts about flock cameras and what the future, what your administration would do with them in the future.
Can you repeat?
Flock cameras.
Okay. That's all I have to say.
She wants to know about flock cameras and what would you, as mayor, do in the future, centered around flock cameras.
So our police department has used flock cameras for a few years now. Our police chief put out a memo a couple of days ago that outlines what we use the cameras for and what we do not use the cameras for. I'm comfortable with the way that we're using the cameras as a tag reader. It doesn't take a photograph of the person. It's a tag reader. And we do not allow access to ICE. I know that's been a question. They don't have access to it. We control the unit, although we lease it. And it's been very helpful in tracking crimes, including a recent murder where they were able to track that gentleman in 2 hours and catch him in Lee County. So I'm comfortable with the way we're using the cameras. If you'd like more information, I'd be glad to get you the memo that outlines specifically how we're using that, including, if you saw the HBO special on it, some of the flock employees and some of their abuses. We also want to make sure that flock has regulations in place.
Thank you.
Regarding their employees' conduct as well.
Next candidate.
My background, I spoke earlier, my degree is in criminology. I'm a former special agent where I investigated racketeering, organized crime. I'm a former beverage agent and have just recently retired as a jail administrator. So one of the things that I've learned about law enforcement is you never, ever, ever say right up front what you're going to do with the technology without understanding the technology. When I heard about the flock cameras, the first thing that I thought about were the red light cameras. And what I always want to do is follow the money. So I want to do an evaluation of whether it's a technology that we're using it appropriately. And I also want to follow the procurement process to see at the end of the day who the vendor is and whose political campaign they're tied to before I make a decision.
Thank you. Next candidate.
So what happens when AI is smarter than us? And that's where we are right now. Flock cameras do a great job in assisting police solving crimes. They also do a great job for a neighborhood like Shore Acres when you want to monitor who's coming and going after a storm to make sure they belong there. However, the company Flock has come out and said they want a nationwide system that law enforcement can use to track the murder suspect. They had to go outside of St. Petersburg and use the Flock system throughout. I'm concerned that there are too many people that have access to the data that we use here in St. Petersburg. I believe we need to maybe put a pause on some of the activity and study that more and be more secure in how we operate that.
Thank you.
So I have met with Chief Holloway about our flock cameras, and I understand what the policies are that he and the mayor have put in place. My position on flock cameras is that I think it's a very, kind of complex issue with data integrity. And that really feeds into everything that we do with body cam footage and everything else, because this data is there and it is stored, and it should have ethical and responsible practices around it. We have to keep these vendors responsible and ethical and hold them accountable to making sure that this data is not being used against us, that it is not being used against marginalized communities, that it is not being used to attack people. And we need to make sure that people know where these cameras are, and there should be a map published online as to where they are, and we should have signage on them so that you know where those cameras are when you are in that area. I think that is just a few of the things that we could do to ensure the integrity of this information.
Next candidate.
I think the answer for me is pretty simple here as it relates to these cameras. Number one, you have a right to privacy, guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States. Number two, safety should be first. We learned as kids, safety first. You want to make sure that you're safe in your home, that your children are safe, that you have technology that you might be able to utilize that's more advanced. But there's a flip side to that coin. Can we trust how it's being used by law enforcement? Or should we? Or should we be skeptical to make sure that you are safe, but your privacy is not violated? I think we ought to place a moratorium on them. I think we need to evaluate it and make sure that they're used for the right purpose here in St. Petersburg. I trust the chief. I think he does a good job. But you got to trust but verify. For you.
Thank you. We have another question. I'm sorry, bro. We're going to have to take this. Thank you so much. How you doing? State your name.
Hi, I'm Josette Green. I live in Campbell Park. First of all, I just want to say, Brandy, I totally agree with you about the use of CRA funds. Very few. In the 2022 report from the city, only 3% of CRA funds went to residents. Only 3%. I also want to comment about the fact that affordable housing, very important, but what about home ownership of affordable housing? The way to wealth is home ownership, very important. But here's my question. I-175. We have known that this divides our city. We know the history of it. It creates pollution. We've got 2 schools sitting right on major highways, hundreds of studies that show the harm that's done to youth, let alone adults. And I feel it in my home in Campbell Park. My question is, where do you stand on changes and pushing for changes on I-175 to bring together, to unify our community and reduce that pollution?
All right, you got that? All right, let's go. 60 seconds. Charlie.
Okay, thank you. Unifying the community is incredibly important, and I applaud the question. How do you do it when you have an interstate that sort of runs through our city and divides it? Difficult question, complicated. The federal government pays for our interstate, not the state, not the city, but the federal government. So I think what could occur is we open up a dialogue with our members of Congress and our U.S. senators from Florida. And hopefully some of them will serve on the Transportation Committee in Congress, whether it's the House or the Senate. and see what kind of dollars might be able to be secured from the appropriations process to see if we might be able to modify what we have living with now that would be able to allow St. Petersburg to geographically unify better than we have in the past. That's the first thing you do is you open up a dialogue and you try to find a solution to this problem.
So I support the Reimagine I-175 initiative because I do believe that that is a barrier not only to connectivity, but for future growth for our city and making sure that whatever happens at the historic gas plant really benefits every community, especially the community that was part of the original gas plant. It was the backyard, right, for the residents who lived in that community. Now, I want to be very clear that it is a road that is regulated and paid for by SDOT. And so they have said that they will not. And I think that it is very important that we have a mayor who is willing to go to bat, who is willing to make the hard ask and have those conversations about how we can reconstruct our community with that removal.
Thank you.
So I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I agree with Brandy. It could take 30 seconds to recover. So 175 should be part of the Tropicana Field redevelopment. And as mayor, I will go to bat for the city and lobby the federal government to allow that to happen. And here's my ego. I'm very good at doing that. So I'm pretty confident that we can make that go away if that's what makes sense for the city. And I do agree that home ownership is the key to the city's affordability.
Thank you.
I guess I'm going to differ a little bit because I do not subscribe to the belief that I-75 created a barrier for Black people and white people in St. Petersburg. It was people. I believe that if there is a legitimate reason to remove I-75 and a cost-effective one when we talk about the redevelopment of the historic gas plant in Tropicana Field, I certainly will look at evaluating the need for keeping I-75. But what I have to do on this, take the opportunity I have to take during this campaign is to tell the truth. And the truth is that I-75 did not create the barriers that we have in St. Petersburg. It were the people.
Thank you.
So let me say quickly, Josette, we do have homeownership as a target. We have $75,000 in down payment assistance as part of the budget. And we also have right now 50 homeownership townhomes that Habitat for Humanity is building. The first 11 are already completed and folks are in there, right on 18th Avenue by the credit card. Those would be homeownership, 80% AMI. Second thing, Kevin, I'm going to top you because I agree totally with Maria. We're from the gas plant. My grandfather's woodyard was right where I-175 is. That wasn't a complaint. The complaint was a lack of access to opportunity, not the fact you couldn't walk across, Fifth Avenue. It was the opportunities that were gone. So if we're going to talk about taking down 175, let's do it for the right reasons. And I've said that from the day they brought this to the NPO. This is not what the community's been asking for. They want the jobs and the economic opportunity that were promised, not just an easier way to cross Fifth Avenue. So let's talk about what the real issue is.
Thank you. We have time for 2 more questions. This young man right here is going to go first.
Hello, my name is Mike Harris. My question is for the candidates is, I understand y'all worry about development and all this, the gas plant, but my question is, what about the infrastructure of the city, the flooding, the bad streets, the traffic jams, the food deserts? What is more priority, development or fixing the problems we already have? And my second question is, will y'all keep Chief Holloway as police chief?
Yes, on police chief Holloway. He's the best hire of my predecessor, Mayor Kreisman, I think. And all the other things are not isolated. They all come together. So yeah, we need to do the infrastructure. Development under this SPAR plan, the GO bond will pay more for that. These big million-dollar condo towers will pay property tax. They'll pay more of that than if we just put it on your water bill. And so this SPAR program, St. Pete Housing Resilience, paid for by the GO bond that'll be on the November ballot, 600 million of it, is to me the way to get our infrastructure kick-started to where it needs to go. But all those things need to happen. None of that is in isolation.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Sir, my campaign slogan is people over politics. And the reason that that campaign slogan is what it is because that's been my life of service. That everything I've ever worked for is about how do we improve the quality of life of the people, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's public safety, whether it's economics. And then at the end of the day, guess who's gonna be able to tell whether it works? It's the people that will give us the receipts. Too many times these elected officials pat themselves on the back and talk about what all we've done. And we have a lot of transactions. We've done a lot as you talk about development. But the thing that I want to be able to hear from the people that live here and say, this is how I have benefited. And that's where my role of mayor will be. At the end of my first 4 years, the people, me not having to do a whole lot to be reelected, because the people are going to provide the receipts.
Thank you.
You had a lot of questions in your questions. So I'll talk to you afterward, but I'll start with smart development. Smart development makes the developer pay for the infrastructure that they are going to impact. The full cost, not $1,000 per bathroom, but the full cost of the impact of that development. Tropicana Field, that development, if it's done right, will pay for the infrastructure repairs that St. Petersburg needs. My estimate of value is $1.5 to $2 billion for the city. We can leverage that money to pay for the infrastructure throughout St. Pete. And it'll be done much quicker than the 25-year plan. I'm opposed to the $600 GO bond because it's not specific enough, and my fear is that it will replace the funds for infrastructure repairs in the future and not supplement it. As far as the food desert, I've talked about this before. I like the co-op idea, but the co-op needs to have a partner that is an actual grocer.
Thank you.
So I would encourage you to visit my website, brandy4stpete.com, because the entire plan and platform is built around the issues that you just asked about. Resiliency, sustainability, fighting climate gentrification, which is happening to our interior neighborhoods, making sure that we are being good environmental stewards and really respecting environmental justice and what that means in our community, and the public health crisis of food insecurity, and quite frankly, some of the most dangerous roads in America where people are dying every single day and cannot get around our cities safely. Those are the issues that I care the most about because they're the issues that are impacting everyday people's lives and the quality of life for everyone in our city. That is my promise and my commitment to the city of St. Petersburg, is to work on those issues and continue to find ways that we can improve everyday people's lives.
Thank you.
Mike, I thought that was a great question. You basically juxtaposed infrastructure and new development, which is the priority. I think we need to think big. I think both are. Obviously, we have a problem with flooding, stormwater recovery, being able to take care of ourselves after the storms have hit us, or even after a thunderstorm on an afternoon like today. And that's inexcusable. It's got to stop. I mean, I was on 22nd Avenue North about 2 weeks ago. It had rained for about 5 minutes, and the street was flooded. That's unconscionable, and that needs to be addressed. But development is not a bad thing. Development, and it has to be, as Kevin said, smart development, whereby you provide well-paying jobs to the citizens of St. Petersburg, and you develop in a way that respects the charm that makes St. Pete so great. And that's what I would attempt to do if I'm elected mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, we want to conclude the mayoral forum. However, we want folks to take the opportunity to speak with the candidates. That's why we wanted to get through the questions. Thank you all. Thank you all. And,
Wait, I need one more minute.
I think we're good.
You know what? I think you're right.
Yeah. Plus there's 40,000 cars that go. It's got to be that. Well, and if we can get that bad, that's how much No. Well,
And I know that's what I lost. I probably,
they added to that. Just about 2 hospitals.
Hope y'all changed, but okay. Yeah, we got both of those. Yeah. Yeah, I will. Can I get take a picture of the sign-in sheet? Okay.
How many?
And go.
This one here too.
Just a heads up, guys. We're going to be going live in about 60 seconds. Y'all are welcome to be there. Just want to give you a heads up.
Okay.
What's your name?
Yeah, sorry. We're actually just about to go.
Oh, great job.
Have a good night. You as well.
All right, now I can hear you. How you doing? Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming out, all right? No. Okay.
Put it back together.
All right. Thank you. Hey, great job. Hey, yes, thank you. Thanks for coming out, all right?
I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Jen Underhill. I'm Brandy's campaign manager. I'm the one who called you during the meeting, and you told me about what the schedule was and sent it the next day. But I thought I'd introduce myself since I'm face to face. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
And thanks for hosting this.
Yes, it was great too. Tell great job. Yeah, I don't know what he's gonna do with that. Huh? Yeah. You got a clean up room?